backing in the war, my father-in-law was in men's prison, and I was the only woman, save my father's ex-father-in-law or my father-in-law life. He not been killed, and he lived another 27 years.
Wow.
His life, because what happened, he was in men's prison next to the convention camp for the women. And he was age 60 something, and I lied that he was 65. And I went over there and say, why you capture him? He can go with us. So the whoever was main operator of the convention camp, he was scary guy, but I run to him and say, well, I wanted my father, I told him that's my father, to go with me, and because he needs, not to be there because he's so old. And I pick up my father, and he said, okay. Wow. And I pick up my father-in-law to take him to that house that we was next to convention. My father-in-law almost has heart attack and say, because the army was already having the guns to shoot us.
Wow.
Because we are moving. We're supposed to not move. We have to be on command. And I bring him in that house, and I told him, the boss say, go ask boss. And he was saying, let them go. I approve it. So I bring my father-in-law and in the house with us. And then we went to the Priador. We stayed there, my father-in-law and my side, and my mother-in-law and my son. We was there, and then like I heard for this, I was actually leader, and I heard for this convoy, the buses, the transferring to the part of the Muslim country, and either you be torture, because one night, 8 army guys, not 8 people, 8 army guys, surrendered, and know that we was from Kozarets, and wanna found if it's any younger, where's my husband? Did he's maybe shooting on them, or what he's doing, or he's in prison? They want to find out what we doing here, why we escaped, and what is in our lives. They want to control us. Let's go put up this way. So I told so that night was my life and death. Either I'm going to be taken away and be tortured, or I am going to escape the next day and float away. So that's the give me some kind of sign, and I say, I'm not waiting the next night. So I went to the convoy and float to the Muslim country, Muslim territory, in the middle of the Bosnia.
Wow.
And that's where I escaped the Prijedor and Kozarets and all those things. And when we came to the bus, the army say, no men's, just only women and children. And I say, no, I wanted my father to be with me. And I'm fighting with him on the front, and he's holding me like either shoot me or you cannot speak to them. You have to be the other. But I don't want to let my father go with the man's bus because he will get killed, or who knows what they do. Mm-hmm. So he put my father-in-law and the bus with the woman. He finally give up. He cannot fight with me and say, get in.
Wow.
So we was get in, and we was piled 3-4 buses of the women's and children, and couple of the buses of the men's, which was captured in the camp. So then we was coming to the mountains, and I heard the old 2 buses men behind us was killed.
The whole bus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you definitely had the gut feeling, and you followed through that.
So my father-in-law was only survived the male in that convoy.
And that's because of
the
you.
The only one. Wow.
And we were everybody. So they have the massacre graves, which even today, some of the bodies, some of the boys, some of the men, some of the relatives that was there is not be found, maybe just pieces.
Wow. So you are brave. You stood up. You basically risked your own life to save your father-in-law's life.
Exactly.
How come you weren't afraid at the time?
I think on that time it was life or death.
Okay.
And whatever, what else can shoot me.
Yeah.
But I think in my mind was they're not knowing why they're doing this.
Yeah.
We don't know what's happening. We don't know what their interest was. So we was mixed emotion. I think there are two mixed emotion, because some things can slip, but some things it's very strict, and some horrible things happen, like abuse, torture, killing, also sexual abuses.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of bad things happen, but on that bad things, some people can say, okay.
Yeah. You understood that maybe even some of them probably were confused, or they felt like they didn't know what they were doing. Like they probably didn't want to do it, but they had to.
I think that's the most part, because it's a lot of people that we know, they have to put the uniform and to save their own lives, because they are mixed marriage.
Yeah.
And to save their own kids. And they don't want to do that, but they have to.
Yeah.
They have an order to do it.
Yeah, and the movie is, so the soldier's in love with the captive woman, and there's a scene where she says, I don't you think I want to be doing this? Like, because his father was a general, right? So he's like, do you think I like to kill people I went to school with, I grew up with, but you kind of had to. But it's just amazing. And, you're such a humble leader. You're such a courageous person that you don't even give yourself the credit that, because when it comes to that type of situation, it's either fight or flight. But you chose to fight. And because you chose to fight, your father-in-law stayed alive for 25 more years. You and your family at the time came to the United States. Your kids are now grown up and having their own kids. So there's generations that are going to continue and grow because you were courageous and you chose to fight.